October 27th, 2025. Welcome. If you would, please remember to silence your phones. Anybody who wishes to speak at the public period, please fill out a speaker card. You don't have too much information, just your name and address, and that will help us keep the records straight. Let's begin this evening. You would join me with a moment of silence. If you would, please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The first order of business this evening is a presentation from Mr. Scott Howard from the Orange County Public Schools. Welcome, Mr. Howard.
Mayor, thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, appreciate it. Perfect. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's an opportunity for us to just provide an update on Orange County Public Schools, kind of where we are. Last time I was before you, we were talking about a half-cent sales tax renewal, which I'll talk a little bit about in here, but fortunately it was renewed. It does go directly to renovating and reconstructing our schools, and our schools that have aged 25 years or more on that plan. So that was renewed for the next 10 years. But today I'm here to talk a little bit about the kind of where we are as a district, give you an update, a quick overview of our strategic plan, kind of where we were headed based on for the next 5 years, kind of tie that in. Of course, our school board, we have 2 new elected school board members this year, Ann Douglas, District 4, and Stephanie Vanos, District 6. It represents this area. So 2 new board members added to our 7 board members this year. We currently have 23,479 employees, 13,000 plus teachers in Orange County Public Schools. We are still the 8th largest school district in the United States and 4th in the state of Florida, behind Miami-Dade, Broward, and Hillsborough County. Our students come from 199 countries and speak 176 languages and dialects. Number of schools, we have 214 total schools. We actually added a new school. I know there's been some discussion about enrollment decline, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but we added a new school down in the Lake Nona area, Luminary Elementary School. This year came online, so we have 214 schools total. Orange County Schools is an A school district, 2nd year in a row. We're an A school district. We were an A school district in 2019 last, before the pandemic, and have been able to achieve that mark for 2 years in a row. So very proud of that. 96% of our schools are A schools, those traditional schools, and 100% of our schools are an A, B, or C. We have no D or F schools in Orange County Public Schools. So very proud of that. That is historical. We've never had 100% of our schools at an A, B, or C. So very proud of that. Graduation rate is 96%. Proud of that as well. As of January, we calculate that every year in January amongst our traditional schools, and that is up from over the last 24 years. So in 2000, our graduation rate was 49.5%. So incredible work from our educators, our teachers, our principals, school-based administrators, continuing to ensure that our students, because graduation rate doesn't start in 9th grade or 10th grade, it really starts in kindergarten, and making sure that the kids are progressing and getting through the process and graduating and going on to college and career. Talk a little bit about the vision and mission. There's 2 words in the vision that really stick out when we talk about students. It's preparing and inspiring. That prepared and inspire for a thriving future. That is the board's new vision just adopted. The mission is, and why we're here, we do it with our families, the community. We empower students with a superior academic experience, essential life skills, and boundless opportunities. 3 words there really stick out: prepare, inspire, and empower. All of our employees, we can connect to this in one way or the other. We actually did some exercises in the beginning of the school year asking our food service staff, asking our custodial staff, asking our teachers, asking our administrators, how do you prepare, inspire, and empower? And some of the responses we got back were very insightful. So we prepare students with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in the classroom and beyond. We inspire students with our positive attitude and friendly demeanor, because a warm greeting and a safe ride can set the tone for the day. Bus drivers, that is the first adult that they greet, that the students see in the morning, and that can really set the tone for the day. And they recognize that, our bus operators. We empower students by providing them access to quality educational opportunities and a beautiful, clean, safe campuses they deserve. So even our custodians understand part of what they do to empower students every day. Portrait of a Graduate is something that the board adopted this year. This aligns. Actually, this was the North Star and the guiding force for the strategic plan. The idea, we actually did a partnership with an outside research firm that brought in an opportunity for the community, business community, different areas to say, hey, what would you like to see in a graduate, in an OCPS graduate? Somebody that leaves there, what do they need to be prepared for? What do we need to inspire them for? What do we need to empower them with? And so really it's 3 areas: academic foundations, essential skills, and workplace readiness. Academic foundations is literacy and math, obviously strong in those areas. Essential skills are more of the soft skills: communication, critical thinking, personal and social responsibility, professionalism and collaboration, and then workplace readiness. Are they ready to have a career when they leave? They can leave us with a post-secondary degree that can take them right into the workforce, or go right to school and then focusing on bilingual abilities. Part of the strategic plan was really measuring that. How do we measure what we're doing with our students? And so over the next 5 years, we've developed some KPIs that will be able to track that in what we're doing with our graduates as we're moving them through that process. Here's some of the options that we have for our graduates right now: dual enrollment, advanced studies. We have 39 magnet programs. We have 70 career and technical education programs at 5 Orange County technical campuses. We just dedicated the one on the east side of town now that was formerly in Winter Park, and we moved out there. It's a state-of-the-art facilities that offers many of those programs, especially around digital arts and technology, and it's right across from University High School. So it's a great opportunity for students to go there and get a degree program. Some of the advantages of public schools, as we know, when we're talking about this, community neighborhood base, as we know they are here in Maitland, high quality academics, arts, extracurriculars. We have certified teachers trained, outstanding support services for special education, for our English language learners, and all students have access to all meals, breakfast and lunch, at no charge because of our food nutrition services status. So we've been able to retain that as well. So some of the comparatives: we have up-to-date technology, our state-of-the-art facilities because of our half-cent sales tax, and tuition free. Couple of things. So we've actually 69 new schools have come online since 2002, the first half-cent sales tax approval. We've done 135 replaced or renovated schools. We have one more technical college that will be done under the half-cent sales tax before the last renewal. So one more is coming online. That's the one on John Young and Oak Ridge. Half-cent sales tax was approved by 72.06%. I like to throw that in there. We had the highest approval rating in the state. 9 other school districts put a ballot initiative forward, and ours was the highest in the state at 72.06%. So very thankful to the voters and the support of the voters in Orange County. 2 years ago, prior to that, or 3 years ago now, but 2 years prior, we had 82% approval of our 1 mil property tax. That's every 4 years. That goes directly for operational costs, makes up about 1/10 of our budget, and brings in money for teacher compensation, student programs, academic and athletic and arts programs as well. So very thankful for the voters for the support there. Some of the challenges we have, I talked about student enrollment. You've seen a significant decline in enrollment since pre-pandemic 2019. We've seen a decline of about 13,000 students total. That's traditional and charter school students. 6,600. We projected 3,000. We ended up with a head count of 6,600 students under the enrollment of the prior year. We're still waiting on our final FTE counts, but thinking that that decline is really 2 reasons. One is incoming kindergartners. There was a decline in birth rates that we saw post-COVID. Right after the COVID period, there was a decline of the number of incoming kindergartners. The other is the choice, the vouchers, the taxpayer-funded vouchers that are offered for families. Throughout the majority of our loss in enrollment is in the elementary school, kindergarten, 4th, 5th grade. So, we've done some things to try to stem that tide. We've looked at some head count numbers. We actually had the lowest decline of the large urban districts. So when you look at the 7 largest urban, our decline was 2%, while Miami-Dade, for example, they declined by 6%. So some of the things that we're doing, we have an outside partnership with a firm that's recruiting students to come back, that's talking about the great things that our schools are offering, the neighborhood school opportunities. So we're doing some things in that area. Here's some of the decline. You can see the increase in vouchers. It's kind of small, but the scholarship or voucher part, you can see the increase in the green line, and then the decrease in the traditional school FTE over that time. Here's the budgeted funding per student that we've seen, just to give you the impact of that 1 mil and what that means to us. So since 2007, when the recession started, you can see the decline. And when you compare that to that line, which is the CPI line, the inflationary line, you can see our state funding is the orange. The dark blue is the 1 mil. You can see that, and you can see that makes up about half of the difference between the CPI and where state funding has ended up over the years. So for this year, for example, we received 1.5% increase in our state funding, but CPI was 3%. So we're still lagging behind that when it comes to state funding. Part of it is millage rates. The board doesn't set their millage rates, it's set by the state. You can see the boards rolled back the millage rate by over 2.2 mils. The legislatures rolled the board's millage back by over 2.2 mils over the last, basically the last 10 years. State revenue makes up about 47% of our budget. Local revenue, including the 1 mil, makes up about 53%. Very small sliver is made up by the federal government. Here's where our money goes to when you break it out, just to give you an idea of funding. 2.8 billion general revenue, special fund revenue is 340 million, debt service 223 million, capital projects fund, not part of the capital side, but it's funded through the operational, is 3.7 million, and then 413 million in internal service fund. This is how our money breaks out when we spend. Just to give you kind of an overview, 78 cents goes to teaching, transporting, supervising, and counseling students. 11 cents is spent on acquiring, operating, and maintaining school facilities. 7 cents on library materials and staff training. 4 cents goes towards central and fiscal services, general administration, and district technology. That's from our operating side. We do have the lowest administrative costs amongst the large urban districts in the state. Some of the ways that we've been talking to folks about helping out, talking to our elected officials. I know we're all in the same boat when it comes to the property tax discussion and what's happening in Tallahassee. We certainly have been discussing that and the impact that could have on public education and services in our communities. We're certainly concerned around that. Some of the funding components, remind people why public schools matter. We know that with the taxpayer-funded vouchers and the options that parents have, they choose schools. We want to make sure that we have the strongest schools and the best programs and the things we can do to be able to compete in the marketplace where we are now. We're competing with private schools, charter schools, micro schools, pod schools, all these different types of models of schools. We want to make sure that those schools are held accountable in the same way that public schools are held accountable, and the taxpayer knows what they are paying for when the money's going towards those schools in the form of vouchers. Happy to answer any questions. I appreciate your time. I was going to cover too. I had to ask about the Maitland fund with the foundation. I'm happy to address that as well as far as the questions go. So, Mayor, I'm happy to do that now or at your.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for coming and giving us this information. It's something that's very important to everybody in Maitland. And it's our neighborhoods are key around our public schools, our elementary schools, middle school, and also private schools. But it's very important aspect for us. I know that Mr. Shaney's wife was a long time OCPS teacher, and Vance and I, take this either way, are products of OCPS, and that they can cut both ways, I guess. And I know that we have scholars down on this end of the dais who take education very seriously. So it's very important to all of us, and of course we're interested in our local schools. So if you have questions with regard to the fund, I'd like to hear about that.
Sure, absolutely, Mayor, thank you. So back in 2017, Maitland had approached us with Mayor McDonald and with the idea of we have $300,000 through a developer agreement that we need to do something with that could impact students and before and after school opportunities and things, and approach the foundation with the opportunity to do that. Sharon Anselmo was instrumental in that process of working through that with us, and came up with an agreement in 2017 to take $300,000 and invest it in a fund that would generate revenue each year that could go to the 3 public schools within Maitland city limits to be able to apply those dollars for before and after school activities, to give them the flexibility to be able to hire teachers through supplements, or to use the dollars for transportation to transport students for the purposes of those after-school activities, tutoring, things like that. So the funding that it generates each year, it's been on average about $8,000 per year that each of the schools, they divide based on FTE. So Maitland Middle School would get the majority, and then Domrick and Lake Sibelia get roughly the same dollars. But every year at the beginning of the year, we present them or give them a check that then the principals can use for those purposes, and have been over the years. They report back to us how they're using it. The fund value, just to give you the idea of how much money we've distributed. So $85,000 has been distributed since the inception to those 3 schools. The fund's current value today, because of the market has been obviously healthy over the last year or so, but the value of the fund is $353,000 right now. That's with the distribution of the $85,000. So the $85,000 in addition to that over time. We can at some point get to sit down with the new, and each of the schools within the Maitland area have new principals since the inception of the Maitland Fund. I did ask my executive director over the foundation to sit down with the schools and say, here's some dollars that are available. We could spend down some of the money. The intent was to grow the fund, but also to ensure that they have the resources that they need. So giving them the money each year helps, but then also having the ability to, if they need specific things in a certain year to help the students before or after school to be successful, having that conversation with them. Many of them are aware of the money. Certainly we've given them the money, but aren't aware of the origins of it and some of the background behind it. So happy to answer any questions about the fund or bring back any other information that you need.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I would be remiss not to recognize Mayor McDonald back there, who was instrumental in the time when we came up with this. So thank you, Mayor. Does anybody have any questions? And Sharon, yes.
And you.
And you.
Any questions for Mr. Howard?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. So of that $8,000 per year, is that a set amount, or is there a percentage increase annually based on consumer price index or inflation? I mean, I would think that $8,000 per year for 3 schools, as we progress forward, would not be the same as it was the first year.
No, that was the average over time. We had times when certainly we didn't earn as much. We actually had to dip down into, I think there was 2 years where we dipped down into the corpus in order to give the 8,000, and then we've given more. I think 1 year it was as high as 20,000 that we divided, or 18,000 that we divided between the schools. The last couple years, just with the instability of the market, we've given them $8,000 over the last 2 years. They've been happy with that as far as their supplements and things that they've been paying their teachers. That's why I said I want to sit down with the principals, the new principals of the 3 schools, talk to them about it and see what their needs are and be able to bring it back. It certainly gives flexibility within the fund. You all are the donors, so if there's something specifically around the agreement that you would like to see, then we're happy to accommodate the schools. But they seem to be very pleased with receiving those checks because they can do that. And again, all the money flows through to them. There's no, however we want to distribute it, we can do it that way. And it is based on the number of students that they have, so they get it proportionate to whatever their students are based on the amount.
Is it possible for others to donate to that, or is it a closed fund? I don't know if you all can have the ability to handle private funds as well. And I know that also Dahmer, for instance, has its own, kind of an organization that its own fund, so they raise funds. I wonder if anybody's ever gone out to try to get people in Maitland to donate to the fund.
That was certainly contemplated and certainly could be done. I know Mayor McDonald had talked about that back when we presented this originally. If somebody wanted to donate to the Maitland Fund, they certainly could do that. We would welcome, that, and it would go into the corpus in order to help generate the additional dollars. Again, it's not a closed fund. It was intended to be revenue generating, but also growth to be able to build and to build into something that that would be around for a long, long time.
What did you do, Scott? Scott, comment or question?
I don't know if we're jumping the gun on this, but in terms of the charter schools being able to set up within public schools, to what extent, has that been imagined in the context of Maitland? Are you developing kind of an idea of what that would look like in order to sort of push back against it? And I know you're doing the bigger argument against these kinds of things, but specifically that one sounds really threatening in a lot of ways, and to my understanding of what a public school is.
Yeah, the co-location certainly is concerning the Schools of Hope legislation. This was legislation that passed. We had a 105-day legislative session last session that passed in the last days of session. It was actually legislation that had died and it had been resurrected and came back, and it went through the rule-making process, and we're getting by the middle of November. We'll have, if there's a request for space, we'll receive those. There's no details around that about what the percentage of capacity or things like that. We're having a lot of discussion around capacity and looking at school capacity, consolidation. We've done this in the past in other areas where you had maybe two very small schools that weren't necessarily operationally efficient. We're able to build a combined school for those in order to do it, looking at some other ways that you can target rezone, so looking at rezoning in order to bring in some more students, looking at choice opportunities. There's certainly opportunities now to cross over school district boundaries and come into schools, so even students potentially coming from Seminole County into that live over that's a possibility to help fill out capacity. It's not something that's preferable certainly, but having to deal with the threat of essentially somebody coming in who's using your resources and then setting up. It would be like if you had a business and you're only taking up half of the space where your business is operated, and somebody said, well, since you have this space, I'm just going to move into this side of the business and take over, and you can pay for my payroll, my security, all of that, and I'm just going to, because you're not in it. But it kind of takes away from the ability and the sovereignty to be able to do that, and then drains resources that aren't going directly to those that it was allocated to benefit. So and speaking of resources to benefit, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for your support of the SROs in every school. I think that is such an important thing, and I know, Mayor, we had a conversation probably a year ago with the superintendent around that, and we appreciate the support of Maitland in supporting that effort, because we certainly value that safety and security for our children. So.
Thank you to the Chief.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's Scott. Couple questions. I know you were talking about recruiting students.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a mechanism that you're using to recruit teachers?
We actually have a whole department within HR that does that recruits teachers. Right now, because of declining enrollment, teachers, as far as your, really the biggest need for teachers is in the area of special ed teachers, some of our ESE teachers in more specialized areas. We've been able to really, with the loss of enrollment and some of what we call the layoffs of teachers or the unassigned teachers, we've been able to reassign them and really fill up all of those vacancies that we had several years ago. It's really those hard to fill teaching areas that we have to work to, that takes specialization. So we're really focusing on that for recruitment. We're always recruiting teachers. We'll always take, because there is retirements and turnover. But certainly those special areas are the hardest to fill, and those are the ones that our team really focuses on.
And that was going to be my follow-up question. How are we staffed? And it sounds like we're 100% pretty much fully staffed except for those specialty areas.
Yeah, we had several teachers that through the summer that we were able to get restaffed before the school year started.
Yeah. And Scott, I just want to say thank you for coming out, man. I mean, you're always so thorough, and you do great presentations, and you really educate us where we are. And so I still have another question, but I just wanted to say
I appreciate
thank you
it.
for everything you do.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here and taking the
Yeah.
time, so it really means a lot to us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us in the room know you personally, so it's fantastic, and thank you for doing what you do. So I have concerns of that millage rate, and it seemed like we went through it real quick, but it seemed at one time it was 5.2, and we're down to about 2.5, almost half of what it was. Is that correct?
We've been reduced about 2.2 mils, so it's gone from 5 yeah, we did go through that fast. We're down to 3 it was like 5.4. I don't know if I could back up. I could go back to the slide, maybe. Let's see. It's there, just so you can see it. It was 5.425 mils, and we're down to 3.201 mils.
Oh, okay, I saw
So,
it.
yeah, so you can see that, and that was an intentional rollback. It was a tax cut that was done post-recession or coming out of the recession in order to, as valuations were going up during that time, rolling the millage rate back. And so, the 1 mil went into effect during the recession, which helped to buoy us a little bit. But as they rolled back the millage, it continued. It needed to stay in order just to keep us at the revenue rates that we had before. So when you look at trim notices, just based on the regular trim, the required local effort, it's actually, if you've lived in your house during that entire time, you're paying less taxes now than you were then, because of the Save Our Homes and the other things and the valuations.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're saying talk to all of our leadership, are you saying maybe this is what we kind of really pinpoint to, is to bring up that millage rate? Would that be one of the main points?
Well, I think it's obviously not rolling it back anymore. They're not going to raise taxes, but don't continue to roll it back, and then still give us the ability to go out to the voters and ask the voters for the additional millage. The legislature could, essentially take that away as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see what that would do without having the authority to be able to raise their own. The board cannot set their millage. The only thing they can do is ask the voters to levy additional.
And two other things real quick, and this is for my own self-interest. So I know y'all do your strategic planning. In fact, my wife was one of that helped many years ago.
Yes, she was.
So
she kicked us off with where we are today.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So how often do y'all do those? Is it every 3-4 years that you kind of, 5 years you do a review of your strategic planning?
And we actually, we revisit it every year to look at the KPIs to see if those need to be adjusted, but they're tied to the portrait of a graduate and to the outcomes.
Yeah. And my last thing is, it's not really a question, but just to what John said, and I could really see this as something that maybe the schools could do an event every year to, go out and fundraise and put that money, help, put more seed money into that and make the distribution greater in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when I meet with the principals, I can even talk about that if there's individuals that want to donate. Certainly they have their own fund. The Domerick Fund is, raises a lot of money each year. We actually host their fund under the foundation umbrella. We have a number of school and district funds, and then we have external funds.
It'd just be interesting to know which fund is creating more, revenue.
Yeah.
So you would want to put it in the one that's getting a higher percentage, right?
Right, and some of the funds, they spend down all the dollars each year because they raise it specifically for that class, so they spend it down. This one is obviously it has a corpus, but also a growth component in it as well. So, we welcome anyone who would want to contribute to the fund and help build it out. And certainly, I like the idea of revisiting even the amounts that are being distributed with the principals to see what their needs are and see how we can accommodate that, because we know the markets can turn from time to time, but this fund has done very well over the last few years. So.
Beautiful. Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Yeah, just a follow-up.
Yeah.
So Maitland's a fairly affluent community, so I would expect a lot of our residents have opted for vouchers and to send their kids to other schools. How are our populations at Donworth, Maitland Middle, and Sevilla? Are they stable? Are they below capacity?
Domrick is definitely at capacity. I mean, there's certainly a demand for Domrick, regardless of the level of their spending power within that. That's a well sought after school. Sebelia's stabilized. Maitland's enrollment's been slightly under enrolled for several years. It's not just recently because of vouchers, but overall, and I'll say this, everywhere I go, 85% of the residents of Orange County and of Maitland and it's true throughout, choose public schools, even though they have the ability to. Some of them may have chosen to go to an Orangewood Christian and take a voucher to go there, or to go to some of the more like the Lake Highland doesn't take the voucher, for example, so they would go there on their own, but you would have some others. So we're certainly seeing the decrease in the kindergarten enrollment, and again, pressure from both birth rates and vouchers. We'll see if that'll come back. We are certainly recruiting and working to recruit students that have left to come back. So, but we know parents choose what they think is best for their child, and we just want to make sure that we're offering an education that is top notch for their children, and that they can rely on having high academic standards.
Okay, good. All right, well, again, Scott, thank you for coming out. We really do appreciate your presentation, and it's very thorough. It's actually very impressive numbers for Orange County, so it's good to see.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons, and thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to old business. Mr. Rainey, anything?
No, sir.
In that category?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, consent agenda. Does anybody on council wish to move any of the items to the consent agenda? Okay, does anybody from the public have any comments on consent agenda items 2 through 4? None. Let's close the public comment period. And motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
A motion
Second.
and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney,
Aye.
Councilmember French,
Aye.
Councilmember Randall,
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Okay, we are into the public period, which is a point in our agenda where anybody who has anything to say has an open mic for 3 minutes to come and address anything that's on your mind. Over there, anybody can help themselves? Hey there. Great. And just as a clarification on that, if there is, if you're here for a particular item on the agenda, we probably will open it up at that period. But if this is a general.
I'm sorry, I was unprepared. I don't know what the agenda is.
Oh, okay.
So,
Really quick.
Yeah, it very well could be on the agenda.
Which, let me know and I'll let you know.
Okay, it's regarding the stormwater issues on Mohawk. And-
Oh, I don't think this is your time.
Oh, this is, okay. Hi there, my name's Kevin Heaney, live at 2131 Diane Way. feel close to someone on the desk here. We bought back in March and moved in without, and learned that we have a stormwater issue a couple months after moving in. Contacted the city engineer, Alyssa Mead, I believe, and Austin, Gloria. They've both been very responsive, and sounds like this issue's been ongoing for several years. Some more information came to light that my neighbors have been in contact with the city regarding getting this stormwater issue rectified, going back to, I believe, May 23 was the official communication. We just really at a loss, have major stormwater issues. Half my yard gets flooded. We haven't seen a hurricane yet. My pool gets stormwater into it, and biggest concern is health and for my daughters who swim in the pool. And I know it's road runoff, has all kinds of, I'm sure it has all kinds of chemicals and heavy metals and carcinogens, and I just can't use my property because of the stormwater. So just looking for any help that I can get, and my neighbors as well. I think it's all tied into the wetlands, the private residents, big kind of property. So that's just looking for some resolution and potentially some kind of time frame on getting resolved. So
Okay, so you're on Diane Way. Are you down at the end of the court there?
yes.
Okay, and on the right-hand side as you go down?
Yes, yeah, the back corner.
Okay.
But I guess personal problem, but my seller didn't disclose that there was a plumbing issue. Half the yard gets inundated temporarily, but it is still a flood in my eyes. So yeah, just trying to get that. We'd like the creek to get brought back into the easement, because even a 2023 survey that Austin provided shows the creek outside of the 15-foot easement onto my property. And then when heavy rain comes, that river turns into a 50-foot delta through my neighborhood. So it just trashes everything. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. How long have you been in there?
We closed end of March, and then there was a post-occupancy period, so we moved in end of May, I believe, right on Memorial Day, and then saw our first rain mid-June, and then have contacted Alyssa and Austin ever since. Every time we get a flood, I send them an email, say flooded again. And I understand that Mohawk and Tomahawk, that intersection, I guess the car had water over it, so it's a systemic issue in the neighborhood, but most directly that's just the chemicals, and that's my wife's biggest worry. So I could deal with some mud, but I don't want my kids getting sick. That's it.
Okay, great.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us. And we'll follow up with the city manager and figure out what's happening with this.
If I can make one more comment, I guess Alyssa said that there was a proposal that was being presented to do a study of the whole stormwater area, tributary area. She said that was being presented. She said it should have been on the agenda, or would be on the agenda for tonight. She'll get to that whenever it's available.
Okay, that may be, okay, the question was whether or not there's a study going on that takes into account all the tributaries, drainage area, and this might be addressed in that. And that, Mark, could that be in the CIP? Is that something that's...
That would be operational, so you wouldn't see that in the CIP.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you, yes, and we'll follow up with the city manager. Okay, anybody else have anything for the public comment period? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public period. and get on to our decisions for the evening. First is the second reading of ordinance number 1450 regarding CIP. Lori, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 1450, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending ordinance number 1432 in direct relation to the capital improvements program, Table 1, amending the governance and implementation element of the Maitland Comprehensive Development Plan to replace Table 7.1, capital improvements program, to recognize the annual update of the City of Maitland 5-year CIP and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Mark, would you like to introduce this item?
Sure, just real briefly, as we discussed at first reading, annually after we adopt the budget and the 5-year CIP, we amend the comp plan. The comp plan has our 5-year financially feasible capital improvements table in it. So we take that from the budget, adopt it within the comp plan. That's one of the requirements of Chapter 163 for the Comprehensive Planning Act to annually monitor and update that. So this is kind of ministerial now since Chapter 163 has been modified over the years to be somewhat less effective, but we still, since we do a pretty good job with our capital planning, like we included in there just from a transparency standpoint. So if anybody chooses to look at the comprehensive plan, they see that we have a 5-year capital plan to address everything that's within that document.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, Mark? Let's open it up for public comment. Does anybody have any public comment on the CIP, the adoption of the CIP? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public comment period. If there's no further discussion, the motion will be in order.
Yes, I'll move to approve ordinance number 1450 on second reading, adopting a 5-year capital improvement program, CIP FY 2026 through 2030, including revised Table 1 as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaney?
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph?
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember French?
Aye.
Mayor Levin?
Aye. Okay, now we have another second reading of an ordinance 1451 regarding C&D franchise agreement. Lori, would you please read the ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1451, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, granting RGH Waste and Disposal LLC a non-exclusive franchise agreement to provide roll-off container collection and disposal of waste within the City of Maitland, Florida, outlining the franchisee's duties for providing for terms and conditions under which such franchise will operate, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Mark, would you like to introduce this item?
Sure. Just briefly as a reminder, back in July of 2013, the council adopted an approved exclusive franchise agreement for Waste Pro Florida for collection of single-family, multifamily solid waste, as well as yard waste, bulk waste, recycling, and commercial solid waste. What the franchise did was exclude collection of construction and demolition of C&D debris. The city regulates that as part of our code of ordinances in sections 3035 to 3040. The non-exclusive franchise program allows residents and business to obtain competitive pricing if they're going to be doing construction or demolition, have that removed from their sites. The city still maintains a level of oversight to ensure that all are properly licensed, insured, and qualified to provide the services. Under the city's charter, franchise agreements are required to be adopted by ordinance. That's why you see these ordinances occasionally come up. We take a look at the ordinance. The ordinance is essentially what is their franchise agreement with the city. So RGH Waste and Disposal has completed the application. They provide us all the information to show that they can provide the service. They currently have 10 roll-off trucks and 2 gravel trucks to transport the materials, so we would recommend that they be included in our stable of C&D waste haulers.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, Mark? On this controversial item? No? All right. Does anybody from the public want to weigh in on the issue of C&D waste haulers and their licenses? No. Okay. Let's close the public comment period. And if there's no further discussion, the motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion on second reading of ordinance number 1451, non-exclusive C&D franchise agreement for RGH Waste and Disposal.
A motion?
Second.
A second. Lori, please call the roll.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Mayor Webb.
Aye. Okay. Next item is the waterfront structure appeal of 180 Shell Point West. Mark and Mike.
Mike will be presenting, making his debut here at City Council, so we're all on pins and needles.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Mike Daniels with the Community Development Department, here to present staff comments for the appeal of staff's denial of the waterfront structure permit located at 180 Shell Point West. The applicant for the project is Robin Lopez with Summertime Dock and Deck. The property owner is Lauren Kendall and Sean Rockfuss. The project was initially submitted on May 9th, 2025, and they're requesting a permit to replace their existing waterfront structure. Pursuant to the requirements of the code, all of the notification requirements for waterfront structure permits have been complied with. Just to briefly explain, how the review process went. The applicant initially applied for the waterfront structure permit. It was reviewed by staff. Staff had comments. It was sent back to the applicant. They then resubmitted, addressed all the comments except for one, which is that they are not in compliance with the requirement that a minimum 10-foot side yard setback from any property line that abuts shoreline property measured at the point where the property line intersect the lake elevation have been met. So essentially they met all the other comments except for this requirement. As a result of that, staff sent a letter of denial on September 3rd, allowing for the applicant to then move forward and appeal the denial to City Council. Initially, it was scheduled to go to Council on October 13th. However, at the request of the applicant, it was moved back to this meeting. I have an aerial view of the site. The property is located right here on this triangular-shaped lot. Shell Point West, the roadway is located to the left-hand side. The lake channel is located right here. You can see where the existing waterfront structure is. Then you have a channel that comes down and then goes to the bottom of the screen where Lake Maitland is located. One of the issues with the applicant saying they could not meet the 10-foot side yard setback was due to specific site limitations. And as you can see from the site, it is a triangular-shaped lot, which as a result, you essentially have two side yard setbacks, but you really don't have a rear yard the way the other lots surrounding them have, which does limit their ability in order to meet that side yard setback requirement. One of the other things I wanted to identify on this aerial is you do see, especially in this example here, there are examples, within this area of other properties that aren't in compliance with the setback requirement. Here is a view of the site plan that they have submitted. Again, just to orient everyone, Shell Point West, the roadway is located just on the left-hand side of the picture. The house is here. Their existing waterfront structure is located at this location. They're proposing essentially to replace the existing structure. It is a little bit longer. It does go a little bit further to the east, but essentially replacing the existing waterfront structure. And the structure is located right on the property line, so it doesn't meet that 10-foot requirement. At this location, and again, on this side, they're about 1 foot from the setback line on the southernmost portion of the east side, and then about 7 foot 4 inches from the setback. So in all cases, they are not in compliance with the city's 10-foot setback requirement. Here is an elevation of the proposed waterfront structure. The first elevation shows from the lakeside looking at the waterfront structure. Then they also have the ridge rafter detail. Then you have the north side elevation, which is showing the elevation from the north, which shows the lowland area that is within the shoreline. And then you have the south side elevation, which shows you from the upland side. So with that, staff may, or council may move to affirm, reverse, or modify the decision of the reviewing staff. From staff standpoint, based upon the configuration of the lots fronting on the canal, as well as the location of other existing docks, and the lack of objection from other surrounding property owners, staff is not opposed to a reversal of staff's letter of denial and granting a waiver from the minimum 10-foot side yard setback. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
And Mike, what did this go through planning and zoning, and if so, what did they think of it?
It did not go to planning and zoning. The appeal goes directly to city council.
Okay. Also, yeah, I noticed another one to the bottom that was also not meeting that. So I think in that area, you're going to have a lot. You have the one up top, then you have one to the bottom left that doesn't meet it, then this one. So yeah, it seems like you're going to have some future people coming to us also on this issue. So my question is, can we do like a zone area for this, since these are, what my fear is really is people coming in going, well, you let them do it, but this seems like a special kind of problem that kind of came back in the day before we really started having all our setbacks and everything was inspected. And so, yeah, that's kind of my question. Is this something we could just do in that area and say, all right, this area, you guys get, special nod for having this problem?
So specifically related to the setback or?
The setbacks.
Okay. You mean for all of the properties within here?
Well, all the properties within that are problematic, like those 3 properties I just mentioned. The current one, the one at 11, and the one at 18.
If I may, this is a discussion we had when we were dealing with some of the setback issues on Lake Minnehaha, and the determination that was made then was that if we tried to do that, there isn't a nice round peg that you can fit these into. The configurations of lots, configuration of the lakes throughout the city do not lend themselves to setting up an overlay zone or a special zone that would address each one of them. That's why the code was designed the way it was, that after it goes through the process and determines that it doesn't meet code, if there's an appeal that would be a special circumstance, then you would be the ones to make that determination. We try, as Mike said, to apply some level of logic to this being an existing structure, as on the Lake Minnehaha site, which I think John and you, Vance, will be going to, that we're here for that, where you actually had boat docks on neighbors' properties,
right,
where they had to work out a deal amongst themselves to make that happen. There's only so much you can do from a regulation standpoint, and I would say that even when I first came here, coming from a regulatory background, it seemed a little bit different, that there weren't specific rules on this, but after being here for 10 years and seeing how this process works, I think this is the best forum for it, because there are so many different circumstances that come up and so many different things that we would try to have to address from a code standpoint, something we always slip through the cracks. Is that the other thing?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in here on this one specific thing. Not only is everything that Mark said exactly accurate, you have a different problem, and that is that we have required, for reasons that actually go back to my origin story with Maitland, looking at riparian rights and littoral rights of the neighbors on either side. Here we have a case that no property owner has objected. Future cases cannot be judged in this regard, and people will not have had a chance, if they don't even know the code might change in a way that affects their ability to object to whatever their neighbor's doing, like building an L-shaped dock that cuts in front of somebody else's property. So that would be my strong recommendation. We sort of had this issue with a number of sort of eccentric boathouses in Mount Dora, if you will recall that cove, which was a problem. And so I think a case-by-case examination is not only sort of good judgment, I think it's probably required under the existing way we permit boathouses and structures on the water.
Okay. Yeah, my concern was more of, and we've seen it in the past, where people have an existing boathouse and they want to go and, keep the pylons in and, and then redo the decking and the supports and all that, but it doesn't meet code. And even though they could move it over, they still want to keep it there existing. So I didn't want this to be one of those where they come and they go, well, you did this on, Shell Point. So, but thank you. Y'all cleared that up for me.
I also should say here now, before we get too much further, because this is a quasi-judicial matter, and as you know, in quasi-judicial matters, you need to disclose if you've had any communications, either by emails, phone, or otherwise, regarding this matter with anybody who is presenting tonight, including staff.
I'll jump in here and say, no, I have not had any discussion with anybody other than myself. And sometimes I'm not a reliable person. But I was on Lake's board when we wrote this ordinance years ago. Cliff was there because we had to delay that because of ADOC. It will be unnamed. But it started a whole...
Unnamed, but not unforgotten.
Not forgotten. I think what's unique about this area is this is not a natural canal area. This was a excavated area to add value to these home sites. And I agree, probably the owner did not realize back then, they probably didn't even live here when we redid the dock ordinance that established those 10-foot side setbacks. I think this is really a hardship situation. No matter what they do, they're entitled to a boat dock, but they cannot meet these side setbacks. This is, I think, the definition of a hardship. And so, if none of their neighbors are objecting, and certainly there's other docks in here that infringe on the side setback, I think it's one of those that clearly, the old days we had grandfather clause. It's grandfathered in. The only thing I see here differently is they're extending it a little bit further into the lakeside. But I think this is truly a definition of a hardship situation that nobody ever anticipated this would come up. So, that's my 2 cents on
Okay. I'll disclose a conversation with Mark Brigantine about this. That's the only person I've talked to. He just briefed me, generally like to brief on all issues that come before the board. So it was...
I was going to add, I also spoke with the city manager about this just in a general briefing on tonight's meeting.
And so I'm having trouble seeing where the water goes from there. There is no flow of water past further west of where the boat dock is it?
No.
Okay. That's the end of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's where the seawall is.
Okay. That's what I thought. So there's really it's not a navigational problem. It's not, it's not going to cause anybody to, it's not like you run into a dock in the middle of the night and just get there. It's really kind of tucked away out of that would be my major concern about it. It's also just basically replacing what's already there. Plus, give or take a few inches or a foot. So that doesn't concern me. It just seems like it's a difficult piece of property and it's a difficult way to access the canal. But I don't see any reason to deny the access on this. Anybody else have any comment on that? Nope. All right, let's open it up to the public. Anybody from the public? Or any private person who wants to?
Like I said, I'm Robin Lopez.
It'd be helpful if you spoke it to the microphone and we recorded it there.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Robin Lopez. I'm with Summertime Deck and Dock. I'm here as the applicant. Also, Sean Rothfuss is the homeowner, also here. We don't have a presentation. We're just here to answer any questions that you guys may have for us. Any supporting documents that we can provide, we're happy to do so.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Ollie's okay? Good. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. No, any of your neighbors here today? Nobody just okay. All right. Let's close the public period then. Is there any further discussion of this?
I would just ask on the motion that we're doing, if we decide to reverse it, the motion is to reverse or modify or whatever affirm, are we just saying city staff?
Based upon the discussion I heard, a motion to at least start discussion would be a motion to reverse staff's assessment and grant allow staff to grant approved permit with the 0-foot zero setback.
Okay.
Or direct staff to grant the permit with the zero setback as shown.
What was that last part, Mark? I'm sorry. And to approve.
Reverse determination of staff and direct staff to issue the permit with the zero setback.
All right, then I would make a motion to reverse the decision of staff's assessment and approve a permit for the applicant. Is that good enough, Mark?
With the zero setback as
with-
shown in the document, the permit application, that would put a bow on it.
Add that, please. To my motion.
Got it?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Mayor Lance.
Aye. Okay. Looks like the doc can go forward. Thank you for coming out. Yes. Okay. And next item is the mayoral nomination for appointment to Orange County Community Action Board. Lori, would you like to introduce this item?
The Orange County BCC has requested a mayoral nominee to serve on the Community Action Board. The city of Maitland has held a rotating municipal seat since January 2024. Mayor Lowndes is currently serving as primary, former councilmember Wild serving as the alternate. Former city council member Wild's term expired in April 2025. Mayor Lowndes' term is set to expire end of December of this year. So the seats need to be currently serving elected officials. Appointees must complete the county's online advisory board application. The meetings occur the second Wednesday of every other month at 4 down at the Orange County Administration Center. Mayor Lowndes is saying he's done after December and wants to open his seat if there's any takers. So we can continue with Maitland holding representation by appointing a new primary and an alternate, or you can pass the seats to the next municipality on the rotation list. The memo and the Orange County resolution that set this in motion were included in the packet.
Okay, thank you, Lori. So, does anybody have any interest in serving?
Let me ask this, is this a very active board?
They do a lot of interesting things. It's not a lot of things that really affect us here in Maitland. It has a lot of kind of community access to services provided by the county, whether that's disability access or underprivileged people having access to shelters and that type of thing. So it is a areas that we're lucky in Maitland not to have too much communication with, but they do a lot of stuff. They do have an interesting agenda. They have a lot of interesting people on the board, and they get things done. It's just that it doesn't really affect us here too much. But as a resident and a citizen of Orange County, I think anybody can certainly take an interest in what's going on. So you may enjoy it.
Yeah.
I found it difficult to get down there in the middle of the day. So my presence was pretty spotty, and I think it just deserves a little more attention than I was giving it. And everybody feels like they're interested and have the ability. That would be great.
I'd be willing to do it if we could have somebody else to be my alternate.
I think I'm gonna have a conflict on Wednesdays. I teach in the spring on Wednesday evenings, and I have to be at UC at 5:30, so I don't think I'd be able to do it.
Happy to join Vance. This is understood.
That's the word I use, Steve, but you might want to rethink that one again. You might not want to follow this guy around.
I think, and I need to clarify with Cliff, but I think you would have dual office holding as being a member of the
Matt?
master plan. So, yeah,
Well, I couldn't do it then.
I'm sorry. Cliff can chime in on that.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I'm just concerned that this may be an issue. I certainly wouldn't want to run afoul of it tonight without researching. Ordinarily, I would say automatically this is not a qualifying office where you have dual office holding, because it has to be, I don't call it a constitutional office, or there's a specific term they use when they analyze these things. But if it's an issue and you have someone else doing it, the easiest thing to do would be to say no tonight. But if not, you want me to research it and get a detailed answer to answer the question definitively, then you can sort of do an appointment subject to and then a backup appointment, something like that.
Yeah, I don't see where it would be an issue because one has to do with highways and roads.
It isn't about that, it's about the authority. But again, I think even under the authority issue, it shouldn't be an issue, but I don't want to say that without looking it up first.
Well, if I can, John, I will.
Okay, well, let's should we table this until our December meeting and have Cliff notified in the other?
I can find out soon, very soon.
December or November?
No, I'm sorry.
I never even started on that.
Yeah, so we could do that, or I could just make the appointment tonight, because it is mayor's discretion, and if it's a problem, we can bring it back.
Right, that's fine.
Mayor, do we know who would go to next as a community?
I don't know that. Laura, do you know?
They do not provide the list to me, but I would be happy to ask them.
Because I would think if there's a community that had more need for this, like you're saying, you know, it really doesn't affect us that much. But if there's another community that it really affects, that could have purpose on being on that board, I wouldn't mind passing it to the next community.
Yeah. And I thought the same way, but then I started thinking, you know, anytime that, you know, we have Maitland involved, it's always good for Maitland. No matter what we do, being Metro Plan, being, you know, what is it, the Board of Mayors, all these things. I think it's good for us. But no, I thought the same thing, like, yeah. But then it could go somewhere that's, you know, that would be a good question because you don't know where it's going to go next. Is it going to be helpful or not helpful as Maitland would be?
I would be happy to find out and coordinate the response with City Attorney Shepherd.
Yeah, so we could do it today and then we could change it later if we want.
Okay, well, tell you what, so we've got just two questions to answer, and then why don't we just, well, when's the next meeting? Tina?
November 8th.
November 8th?
Oh, yeah. Table it then.
November 10th.
November 10th?
Yeah, that's a Monday.
When is it there?
Oh.
Second Wednesday?
Theirs would be the 12th. But your term is not expiring until the end of December, so.
Right, and if we were going to do it, I just wanted to make sure that we would get the appointment made so somebody could attend their next meeting.
I believe they're on the every other month, so they'll probably be having one in November and then not again until January, so.
Right. And it's the second Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay, so we would be able to meet again more. Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's just do that. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. You have a motion?
The table.
Yes. Can somebody have a motion to table this until a date certain?
I'll make a motion to table mayoral nomination for appointment, Orange County Community Action Board until November 10th.
Second.
Okay. I don't know who we're going to give that to.
Councilman Guthrie.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second.
That's what Vice Mayor gets done.
Some power.
Laura, please call the roll.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Mayor Lance.
Aye. Okay. It's tabled until our next meeting. Discussion items. There's Sustainability Advisory Board and then the Transportation Advisory Board. Mark, would you like to lead that item?
Sure. And just to preface the discussion on the Sustainability Advisory Board, we're discussing the Sustainability Advisory Board tonight because of the discussion that came out of the Transportation Advisory Board. As I think all of you are aware now since I've had this discussion with you, it's been an ongoing discussion on the Transportation Advisory Board to have them continue to be a standing committee or to utilize an ad hoc status that you appointed an ad hoc committee to. At one of the meetings that we were discussing the final disposition of the Transportation Advisory Board, two council people brought up the fact that asked if there were any other boards in similar situations, and if there were, to bring those forward. The Sustainability Board is not in a dissimilar situation, so with appointments on the horizon, we're going to have this discussion also. So, with that being said, back in 2019, the city adopted Resolution 14/2019, creating our climate change mitigation sustainability program within the city. The resolution directed the city manager to develop a program that addressed resilience and sustainability in the city's own facilities and operations, and coordinate with residents and civic groups and businesses to develop the same. Within the staff report, there are a number of things that are pulled out of the resolution that we're supposed to do. They range from reducing emissions, greenhouse gases from city operations to improving our arbor program, look at stormwater facilities, look at our potable water resources, reduce plastic waste, update our land development code to address sustainability issues. So we have the task before us, and ad hoc Sustainability Committee was established shortly after to assist with the detailed action plan. The ad hoc committee was then converted to the Sustainability Advisory Board in 2021 to review and make recommendations regarding the city's sustainability and resiliency program and participate in the implementation of the action plan. Since 2021, the board has met a total of 9 times. The last time the board met was in January of 2024, where they discussed these significant achievements that have been made to date. We created a position in 2023 for a sustainability coordinator, but it was determined pretty quickly, and much of it based on the recommendations of the sustainability coordinator, that the position was unnecessary since the operating departments and existing staff were handling most of the items and responsibilities that were within the action plan. So this position was left unfilled in 2024, it was unfunded in 2025, and removed from the budget this last year. As far as the achievements of the Sustainability Action Plan, I'm not going to go into them in great detail. I've included those in the staff report. We have a full page of the achievements that have been accomplished. I've also included as an attachment to the agenda item the actual resolution, where I've highlighted the issues that have been addressed or continuing and ongoing in the city that we've adopted through internal policy. So most of the elements are ongoing and no longer require additional input from the Sustainability Advisory Board. Some of the goals that were not achieved, we were preempted from pursuing those. One of those, for example, was investing in having city funds invested in sustainable development, sustainable businesses, but that was restricted by the legislature, that we were not allowed to do that. We have a very limited number of funds that we can invest city funds in anyway. But what we did do is provide some ESG funds for employees to invest in their own personal 457 and 401 funds. So some things we were just preempted from doing. So the question for you tonight is, since we do have reappointments on the horizon, and the Sustainability Board has not met for such a long time, do you want to continue as a standing committee? Because we would hate to put it out there as a standing committee and then have it not meet or have it go away after appointments are made. So that's the basic question before you this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any? Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions of Mark? Bill, you look like you're reading.
Well, just discussion.
Okay. All right. So, as background, so I was involved in getting this going, and I think I actually drafted a resolution about this. And we've achieved a lot of things on here, and we are continuing to achieve a lot of things on here. I think what we've done is kind of implemented them in into our departmental system. Everybody kind of operates like the EV program is to, one of the first issues is always to see if the fleet needs enhancement, can it be met with an EV, rather than a combustion engine. Initially, the main part was to do an audit of all city buildings and kind of figure out what the electricity costs were and other ways to minimize our footprint as far as that goes. And that was, I think, really the expensive part of the thing, because we were at that point looking for a sustainability director. Mark, as you said, it was finally pulled from the budget because I don't think it was ever effectively staffed. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I just think it was because of the limitations of the program itself. It was a difficult fit. So if we're talking about just the board issue, if you look at this rather long, verbose, overreaching resolution, I don't know who it's really just the last resolve clause that has to do with the sustainability board. And there it says, the council understands the success of the climate mitigation and sustainability program and the penalty active participation of Maitland residents. Therefore, the city manager is requested to explore the establishment of an ad hoc committee of city residents and perhaps a standing advisory committee that would advise on the development and implementation of the program. So it's not much of a, in fact, I think it's consistent with this resolution to either go to an ad hoc situation like we've been thinking about with the Transportation Advisory Board, and not to have a permanent sustainability program or sustainability board, because this didn't require that. It was actually just exploring that. And so the other things I don't think really need to be touched. I think the resolution can stand as it is, and then the issue is really just about, do we need this board? I think that it's appropriate to have it as an ad hoc board when we need it. And this is going to be an ongoing issue for all of us for the rest of our lives. So I think that it's something that we should probably keep in our quiver. That's my thought.
I think my comments are generally focused on boards in general. We appoint the boards. The boards work for the council. They're advisors. And I know over the past couple of years, they haven't met a lot. There hadn't been some issues. I really put that onus on the council. It really should be us directing what we want to see from them. If they're guessing at it, trying to figure out what are we going to put on the agenda this month. And there's nothing other than, as Mark has said, to me, well, we're meeting once a year to decide who's going to be the chairman, who's going to be the vice chairman. And that's the entire year's, meeting. When I was on these boards, we always had something going on. And it wasn't just necessarily, I know I joke about sidewalks and stop signs when I was on transportation. And we were part of that Maitland area transportation study, similar to what our ad hoc committee is dealing with today, with the downtown transportation. But there's other areas in Maitland that don't meet that. Maybe it's the, Dominic State Drive intersection with Horatio or something else that needs to be looked at. But we need to come up with those tasks for them to look at it. Because there are advisors, and not all of us can be on top of everything and every issue. There are also citizens. They don't always need to be the professionals, and I know that's a great thing because when I sat on a board and I represented an engineering firm, we did stormwater lakes management. But that wasn't the purpose that I got on it because we didn't get the contract. But I did sit on there for 12 years and chaired it twice. Where I'm going with that is it's great for professionals to be on there, but sometimes it's more self-serving than it is public-serving. And I think we have to be careful sometimes when we load these boards up who those professionals are. It sounds great because you're getting free advice from professionals, but we really want the general citizens' input as well on these boards. So I think we need to have a mix. But back to my original thing is I think it's really up to this council to establish what those goals, what we want to see them achieve. Whether it's looking at, do we put sidewalks in neighborhoods that don't want sidewalks? Sometimes that's an analysis by a professional that the boards review and make a recommendation to us so that we're not sitting there doing our own analysis on it. Similar to planning and zoning does when they have developments come through. So I think that's, after I sat down this afternoon and really thought about this a little bit more, I think that's where we're falling down on our boards, is we're not giving them tasks to do. An example that I thought about today was, I don't know if this is going to be in the downtown transportation or not. It's Packwood and Maitland Avenue. We're putting a library there. It's one of the most problematic intersections right over here for pedestrians to get across. And that to me is, I don't know if we've hired somebody to look at that or not. We haven't heard anything. But that was the interface of the transportation board, was with those consultants. So they vetted what was going on first before it came to us. So I think there's a lot of things out here they could be tasked with, but it's, I think, us identifying what we want them to do first.
I want to, and I was going to talk about this a little later because I did a little homework too, but I agree with you because, I mean, yourself, John and I all came up through the ranks of boards. I mean, I've done Lakes Advisory Board, planning and zoning, and, and then that kind of groomed me for this position. And that's what we're losing out on. And because these people are coming in and they're not wanting to work. I mean, they're not wanting to, they're not getting the chance to work and do things and really put in the value that they have. Again, it's like, let's call them up and let's see. So, and the thing is, like with the dock, we used to see that at Lakes Advisory Board, or if there was a complaint or planning and zoning, and they didn't have to come all the way to us because maybe it could have been fixed there. So those are the kind of things that, problems that came up. I remember there was somebody who came to our Lakes Board about somebody on Lake Faith who had a wave runner and was pulling somebody behind it. And I'm like, and we fixed that problem there and we addressed it before it had to come here and council had to deal with it. It didn't go any farther than the Lakes Board. But those are the things that used to happen, and we really looked at projects and things that were going on. I mean, if it wasn't for the Lakes Board, I mean, that nice little retention pond behind Publix probably wouldn't have really got started. So those are the kind of things, and you're right, we're just, I mean, maybe we're lazy up here, maybe we need to sit down and really go, what do we want from our boards? You know, do a planning session, say, what do we want? Because I tell you what, I've been up here 6 years, I haven't been addressed by a board yet. I haven't had any advice from a board. You know, I started looking at around us, what the other towns are doing, what Winter Park, Altamont, and even Edenville are doing. And, I mean, Winter Park has Lake Killarney Board, Code Compliance Board, Planning and Zoning Board, Historic Preservation Board, Winter Park Pines Golf Course Board, Lakes and Waterways Board, Civil Service Board, Parks and Rec Board, Public Art Advisory Board, Keep Winter Park Beautiful Board, Community Redevelopment Advisory Board, Economic Development Advisory Board work session. Wouldn't that be great? And Utilities Advisory Board. Altamont, not so much. They have Board of Zoning and Appeals, Code Enforcement, Health Facilities, Personal Administration Board, Planning Board, Police and Officers Fund. And the little town of 2,500 people has Board of Adjustment, Code Enforcement, Development and Review Commission, Historic Preservation, Nuisance and Abatement Board, Planning and Zoning Board. And if we got rid of these two boards, it would pretty much leave us with PRAB, Planning and Zoning, Community Redevelopment, Lakes, Police and Fire. We'd be down to 5 boards. And I looked back on the schedule of boards meeting on the website, and I went through it, and I started out last October. Now excluding December, because all boards are done. You know, they're not meeting in December. That's how it's always been. But PRAB's only met 4 times in the last year. P&Z's met 5 times in the last year. I remember, John, when you and I were on P&Z, you were meeting how many times a year? 12, if not more. Community Redevelopment 5 times. Lakes Board 5 times. Police and Fire twice. TAB 0. November 3rd this year will be their first time meeting. And I just think that we're not using, again, I said this before, we're not using the boards to their full potential. There's a lot, but we have to give directions, you know? We have to say, listen, this is what we want from our boards. And if that's us sitting down saying, you know, we need to do a planning session and say, this is what we want, and these are, you know, the situations that need to happen, we want reports on them, we want reports on this and this and this, and we want city staff to deal with, you know, to go over certain things with these boards and be a little bit more transparent and be involved. I mean, that's the whole thing, is they need to be involved. I mean, I go to these board meetings, they're just filling them in on what the city staff has done. And there's no talk about, you know, them getting involved. We're not involving them. So that's why there's so many cancellations. City staff. And I want to share a little story with you. And this happened to me many years ago. I was at a function with, now this guy was not an employee of the city at the time. He had worked, but he came up to me and we were just talking, and he goes, you know what, the problem is all the boards got in my way there in Maitland. It's like, if we got rid of all the boards, we could get our business done. And I don't want that to be a thing. I don't want to get rid of our boards. I think our boards are valuable as in coming up with ideas that we should see as a city, that our residents want to see as a city, and they bring in a different kind of thinking. I mean, just because we hire somebody to do the work, that doesn't mean it's the right way to do it or the best way for Maitland. So, you know, I think we just need to revamp our boards. I'm going to move my soapbox now.
If I may, I think, just to get back to Sustainability Advisory Board, the real concern that we have with the Sustainability Advisory Board is that they did provide some valuable input. They did take the resolution and put it into an action plan. 90% of what's in that action plan is administrative. So when they met, they were right on the borderline of directing staff versus advising city council. And that's where there was a little bit of friction, but a lot of explaining going on that we were doing what is in this sustainability resolution action plan administratively. That's what most of it is. It's for us within the organization to do it. So we report back to them. And then instead of try to make recommendations to the city council, they would try to direct my staff to do things. And that's not their role. That's not any role of any board. That's my role. And if you direct me to do something, that's on board. But they weren't making recommendations to you. They were trying to create administrative processes or procedures or what we were trying to accomplish, which we were doing a very good job of, I might add. The sustainability program is inherent in everything that we do. Everyone's familiar with the action plan. Everybody takes it very seriously. That's why you see what comes before you with the analysis of what we're trying to do. So by no means are we trying to look at all boards or get rid of all boards. I just believe that the sustainability committee served its purpose, and there's nothing really for them to do anymore. So we somewhat grasp for things to do because they did a good job putting together the action plan. I mean, that's where the public process was involved, where they were involved, the public was involved before that came to the city council for its final recommendation and adoption. So that's the concern with this one versus the TAB, which we're responding to direction from city council on that one. As far as the other boards, they're still meeting and they still serve a purpose. PRAB was meeting all the time for the first 7 years I was here because we had $7 million in Parks Trust Fund that we had to spend. So they were making recommendations on that. They weighed in on the strong park. So when park issues come up, then we involve them. P&Z, that's development driven. So as applications come up, P&Z needs to make recommendations or make final decisions, in this case now for developers or to make recommendations for city council. So that's the reason sustainability has risen to this level, because I was asked by city council to take a look at the boards. I was involved with this because it was one of the boards that Sharon was staffing, and then I was staffing, working with the sustainability coordinator at the time, and they were, their job was done. TAB, you can make an argument for either way, and we'll have that discussion next on what to go there. But the other boards serve a purpose, and they're going to be busy a lot of times, and sometimes there's going to be lulls in what they do. Yeah. And so it's a function of what we can generate from a staff perspective for them to do, and direction can come from the top down to ask them to look into things. So that's sort of where we got on just on sustainability. So there was a little bit of a method to the madness.
I just want to address a couple things, and I think you talked about, and it was more than just sustainability board. It also happened on lakes where individual kind of gave direction to staff and kind of made them work, and that can be into coaching, and staff comes to you and you got or their head or whoever's in their head of their department, and that's coaching. No, you need to go back or make a call and tell them that's not what we do and that's not how we do it, and and I mean, again, that's just giving direction, that's training, that's coaching, because I know, the two instances you're talking about. But the thing with like the dock and stuff like that is, before it could have just come to P&Z and that was done with, and we didn't really have to deal with it here. But I think, again, I don't think we're really using these to its full potential. Now with sustainability, I may be kind of seeing where you're going, because what are they going to do now? To kind of, say, listen, let's get rid of plastic bags in Maitland. And, I don't know if that's a thing that we can make people go to paper. We might get sued over that or something. But I mean, I know we can just do what we can do 100% within the city and what we do, and a lot of that's already done. Now I do see some instances like where John's talking about, if we have a project or something like that here, you know, with the new library, making that maybe more sustainable and kind of going over the plans and getting feedback from them, I can see that being of help. So maybe even arts and history or something, right? I mean, our police station's a LEEDs certified building, so we've kind of done it there and really done it here. But yeah, I get it, and I think again it needs to come back, and we just need to look at our boards and, you know, kind of get a, you know, maybe do a strategic planning session with our boards. Why not? And say, listen, this is our mission, this is where we want to get to, you know? So that's not a bad idea in the long run. Again, we must soapbox, I'm off.
I think, you know, what the mayor said, again, in the resolution, sustainability was ad hoc, potentially a board. So to me, I think, you know, I could support keeping that as an ad hoc committee if something comes forward. But pretty much, as Mark said, everything is in policy now, where it wasn't before. So now we have staff that knows what the game plan is. Will that change? Well, it may change, and if it does, with new technology and new ideas, then maybe the ad hoc committees are reconstituted or a new one's constituted to look at that. But it's not going to be a monthly change of policy. So I can understand that one, yeah. But things that deal with all of Maitland on a daily basis, I think, you know, we definitely need to be looking at that. You know, the gentleman who came here, when I was on Lakes Advisory Board, we would be dealing with stormwater runoff. You know, it sounds like there's a conveyance issue here. What downstream is happening? We cleaned up silt in Minnehaha from the Lake of the Woods creek that we crossed today on the, you know, ribbon cutting. So a lot of that stuff came before Lakes Advisory Board before it ever got to council. That's where staff introduced it to them. And they looked at the first initial, and a lot of times RFPs came out of that. The, you know, suggestions for capital improvement programs.
And Bill, that's where, like today when we were doing taking the photo, that whole park area, when you walk through, it was covered in vines.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Lakes Advisory Board went to council and kind of, you know, advised them that we get that all cleaned up. And I think it was, and then they took it from there. And then I remember I was on Lakes Advisory Board and I met with Sharon and I can't remember her name. She worked here before Kim came. I was showing them all the vines and everything like that and talking to them. We had discussed it and I was the chair, you know, at Lakes, so I took them out there. And from that, they went from cleaning up Lake Lily, the park back there, with all the invasive and all the vines, to doing the whole city. I mean, Minnehaha, that little walkway, y'all remember what that used to look like? And the walkway in Mayo Park. So, I mean, those are the things that really the board is set to do. I mean, the city can't have eyes everywhere and see problems, and that's the good thing about having boards. They can bring the problems to the city also.
We want to entertain a motion to make the Sustainability Advisory Board an ad hoc. It's just discussion.
Yeah, so you can give me direction. It will take an official action because we'll need to bring a resolution back to change the status of the, since they were created by resolution, their status has to change by resolution. So bring that back at an upcoming meeting.
Mayor, I'm gonna put this one on you because you created it. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on the direction of this.
Well, I think you bring up some good points. I mean, one that kind of stuck with me is, you know, you said you've been up here 6 years and haven't heard from anybody on the board. And these are advisory boards. They're for advisory boards for city council, and kind of sure what Bill was saying as well. And I feel like a lot of times we're not really getting any advice from them. I know when I was on P&Z, I mean, we took things directly to the city council on a number of occasions. I mean, just, because we thought it was our, we thought they were not doing the right thing, and we drafted a letter of recommendation and brought it directly to the city council. And sometimes they ignored us, and sometimes they didn't, but it was kind of had to do with going back to all this development downtown here. So, the fact that we're not hearing from boards is it gives me some pause. And I don't know if that's a structural issue that they don't feel empowered to bring it, or they're bored and don't want to bring it, or they're happy and feel like there's nothing to bring. But I just don't know. And it would be kind of going to your point, Bill, about what do we tell them to do? What do we want from them? I'm not sure. I think, in Vance, you said perhaps we're a little lazy on this, and that also is probably true. I mean, we haven't really asked for much, and it kind of maybe we don't feel like we need much, but I do feel like we're not really hearing from a lot of people in the community, and from time to time things will blow up, and then we hear from them. But like, for instance, the Domerick traffic issue with Ryan Cal, rugby player, big guy, had an issue, and they brought it, and because that had been an issue that had been stewing in the neighborhood for a while, and they kind of took it on themselves to kind of create their own ad hoc committee and brought it to us on several public periods. And it ended up, we funded a study, we went through and figured out what the problems were and addressed what we thought was appropriate. Other than that, though, we don't hear from the Parks Board, we don't hear from P&Z. We hear from P&Z when they give us what they need to give us from their statutory perspective. But so I don't know what the cause of that is. Or is it us being unapproachable? Is it us not empowering them? Is it them feeling that things are all fine, they don't need to bring anything to us? I would hate to see it kind of fade away just from lack of care, or whatever the cause is. So I'm careful about doing any of this. And this was largely my baby anyway, and so I don't want to let this go. I think all these things are still very important. But if they're, I'm kind of just looking through them now and trying to figure out what a lot of these things are just administrative things that we bake into our operational policies. But some of them, there are a lot of people who are very interested in sustainability, and a lot of people who want to have something to say. And I don't know if it's because they don't feel that they can get to us, or what the problem is. But we've never heard of sustainability board. We've never heard anything from even though they have a long list of things to choose from here. And I don't know if that's, do they feel like they've had access to us? I don't know. So these are all.
Ask a question about these boards and their chairs. How are the chairs chosen? Are they chaired, and is there someone who's also sort of taking the lead as chair?
The chairs are chosen annually by the board, and there are limitations on that on some board bylaws. You can only serve twice as chair, so they do tend to rotate. The role of the chair is when we put together agendas, we call the chair, talk to them through the agenda that we've put together, ask them if they'd like anything else put on the agenda that is of interest to them. If they do, then we put that on there and address the board. If there's nothing that we have for an agenda, we call the chairperson and ask them if there's anything they would like to discuss, to bring up as an issue, to take the board in any direction. If they do, we put that on the agenda. If not, then it's the chair's prerogative to cancel that meeting. So that's how the board, how the chair is established and what their role is on the board.
Yeah. And I understand that, but 20 21 lakes? You know, I mean, there's got to be monthly updates to these, at least to lakes. And with PRAB, is there not things we're doing that for updates and really people could chime in or add things, and can we add this, can we do this? I mean, that's kind of where, you know, when I look at these and we meet 4 or 5 times, you know, that, I mean, that's in a year, that's 3 months. How much stuff had happened in 3 months in the city for lakes going on? How many times, how many things that happen in parks? So I think there's a lot of things that, you know, you could say, I mean, if we had it, and I think this is a good discussion for a later time. I think I would like to put, not really go any further on this, but really bring it back for a discussion item on our next meeting, but to talk about, you know, maybe we name it direction of the boards or improvement of our boards or whatever we want to call it, but I think we need to have a discussion about our boards and where we're going with them.
You know, something was said earlier by the mayor, and that is there was an ad hoc committee in Domrich that they formed themselves, probably because they didn't realize we have a transportation advisory board that they should have brought that issue to.
Yeah.
That looks at it and, you know, discusses it amongst themselves on how to address it, and then would make recommendations.
Well, it should have been directed to them first.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second, it was.
Okay.
It was. It went
It
through
went to
TAB.
them?
It started as a grassroots effort.
Okay.
It went through TAB, and
Okay.
then ultimately landed in.
So it went through the process.
Apologies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, as long as, I mean, as long as the public knows there's a process that they go through. You know, I will say too, having lived in the city and been involved for over 30 years, dating myself, you know, maybe some of these issues we have solved. I mean, I was out there putting down placards on every inlet saying, drains to lakes, don't dump here. You know, our board did that. You know, cleaning out the vines, lake cleanup. So writing the Stormwater Lakes Management Plan is probably on its 3rd iteration now. So yeah, a lot of that work has probably been done by previous boards. It's just now being maintained. When I was on transportation board, we did have a tremendous amount of work to put sidewalks in. I mean, there was a lot of public pushback on something that we thought was really a safety item in some of these neighborhoods that weren't established back when they were built in the 60s, 50s and 60s. Maybe there's not as much today, or the city took a stance that I don't care what your position is, it's safety and we got to put them in. So a lot of work is probably done that was proposed by the boards and discussed by the boards back then. But I think there's more to be done. You know, I hate to hear somebody's backyard is flooding. That to me, I mean, now we're focused on flooding issues. Those typically are conveyance issues. Water's not running where it needs to run quick enough. And so whether the Lakes Board can do something about that, they could at least be a litmus test on, you know, looking at the data, looking at whether it needs to be an RFP to bring somebody in, and maybe the city's already doing that. Those are the kind of things that I guess we need to know.
Even if they can't, that is a sounding board for that person to go to first and get advice and get help. And then, you know, there's, what, 7 members of Lake? I mean, I'm sure somebody's interested enough to call us and be like, hey, listen, we got a problem, blah, 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 and let us get a jump on it, or, you know, have a little, you know. And listen, this is a great board. I mean, council, but one day this council is going to be different. And we need to set up our boards to be also a checks and balances for the community. Mm-hmm. So if somebody has a problem, you know, and back to what you were saying, planning and zoning came to council and wrote stuff and said, you know, we don't agree with it or thought it was wrong. Right now, that's not going to happen if another council gets up here. There's not going to be a check and balances, because they don't have anybody really to go to because all the meetings are canceled. I mean, if I'm a homeowner and I see 3 meetings canceled all up, you know, in the last 3 months, I'm like, well, I'm not going to that meeting. I can't depend on there being a meeting for it. So You know, I just hate for that checks and balances to go away.
Now, I would also add that whatever we decide to do, we need to be respectful of citizens' time.
Yeah.
And so if the pleasure of the council is not to make sure these boards are utilized, then there's really no sense in them. The only board we're required to have is planning and zoning as our land planning board by statute and charter. So I hate to have people make commitments and think that their night is going to be used for city purposes and then everyone's canceled for the
Well,
year.
that's why I think we need to do like a planning session or review and say, is this something that's gonna work or is it not gonna work? But right now, we just know it's not working. So if it's not gonna work and it's not vital, if it's not helpful to us, then shut them all down.
Okay. Do we have any direction from Mark on sustainability?
Mr. Mayor, I would kind of agree with the ad hoc right now. I mean, we can always go and if the ad hoc doesn't work in the next, certain amount of time, then we can just get rid of it. But it's not going to hurt that ad hoc committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think they need to be making decisions whether it's a Prius or a Chevy Volt. No Teslas.
See the police are driving around in cars. You guys need to arrest more Tesla drivers. Okay.
I can bring that up, I can put that together, we can bring it back at the next meeting. It's pretty straightforward.
And I think also, part of this exercise would be, let's look at the charter as well for each of these, so I think rather than just having another session, Vance, you brought up that it'd be good to have a session, and it would be good to have a session, but I think before we get to that,
Do a review.
I mean, say, everybody has their individual review, say, here's a charter, it's too limiting, or it's not too limiting, or it seems right, but, just find out what their charge is.
Well, their bylaws would say that, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Constitution and bylaws outline that, so I can certainly get those out to you for review. And
Yeah.
set it up in the future to talk about.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Okay. All right. I think you got what you need on that, Mark, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, what about TAB?
All right, just real briefly to go over a little history about how we got here tonight. Back in June of 2024, the City Council did consider appointments to the Transportation Advisory Board because the terms of James Blackford and Cliff Tate had expired and they were ineligible for reappointment due to term limitations that are contained within our charter. The issue of that night was that the other applicants to the board had listed TAB as their third preference, so it was like the last on the list from where their interests were. And that's not surprising. Most of our residents want to get involved with the Planning and Zoning Commission or something, something that is like that, so that's not surprising. The council did discuss the fact that the city was fortunate to have a board that consisted of 4 transportation professionals and a former 2-term mayor. Additionally, at that time, the city was embarking up to the very beginning of the continuation of the Maitland area-wide study, one that DOT dropped the ball on and left us holding the bag when the MPO stepped up to continue that study, so they had already committed to that. So at that meeting, the council requested staff evaluate options to allow that group to stay together, basically to keep Cliff and James on the board since they were interested in participating in this study. So staff discussed this transition with the members of the TAB, and they were in agreement that an ad hoc approach to addressing specific transportation issues was preferable to having a standing committee. At the January 27th meeting in 2025, council discussed the option for the ad hoc committee consisting of the current members of TAB to advise the city council on downtown transportation study. Based upon these discussions, 2 options emerged. The first was to appoint the ad hoc committee that would review transportation issues as they arise and then sunset the TAB. This option ad hoc committee could be called together anytime there was an issue that city council needed transportation advice on. This would allow the former TAB members to remain together and advise the city council without the constraints of term limits. That was sort of the constraining factor there. The second option was to reappoint Mr. Blackford and Mr. Tate to the TAB and have that committee serve as the steering committee for the downtown Maitland mobility study. They were eligible for reappointment in 2025. Mr. Blackford and Mr. Tate indicated that their preference was to serve on an ad hoc basis and did not submit applications for reappointment. Obviously, we know what happened. The City Council in April appointed members of the TAB and Matt Lamb, because as we discussed, I reached out to Matt Lamb, who's the former two-term chairman of TAB, former two-term chairman of Planning and Zoning Commission, and again, a transportation engineer who runs the southeast offices of, I believe it's Jacobs, it might be VHB. So a great deal of knowledge that was contained on that board. To the ad hoc committee, and they are currently acting as a steering committee for the downtown Maitland mobility study. They've already had one meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for the 1st of next month. And at that meeting, the council discussed the disposition of the current TAB, but deferred that to a future date. We are at that future date now, because again, like the Sustainability Advisory Board, we have appointments coming up in January. Since there was discussion about sunsetting them, I want to have finish this discussion with the City Council on what to do with them, because you don't want to appoint members to a board that you're considering sunsetting. So now it seems like the good time as any, since the budget was done and we're moving into a more operations situation, to have that discussion. So that's the background on how we got to where we are tonight. So same question applies. What do we do here?
Okay, thank you, Mark. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
I think my first discussion kind of addressed transportation as well. Is again, if we're going to have them, we need to have a clear message of what we want them to do. And I think there's a lot of transportation issues in Maitland that might not fall within the study area that need to be addressed. And so I would be reluctant to sunset them at this point. I think there's a lot of ongoing things that we deal with. You know, we are a pass-through community. We have our own trips generated, and over the years that I've been involved with the city, we've heard about how all this is going to create much more traffic. And I can't say traffic from them has diminished, but we've had a lot more outside impact from Apopka and Oviedo, and we have continued to be the cross-through community. And so I don't think that's going to go away. So I think our citizens need a sounding board other than us that they can bring their concerns to. That's what they always did before. And again, it's the first organization that kind of vets what gets passed up through the chain to us as advice.
I think if I remember right, we have 20,000 residents, but there's 60,000 people a day that travel 1792 through Maitland.
At minimum. I haven't checked the latest counts.
On a slow day. On a slow day?
Slow day.
So, yeah.
Holiday.
I kind of agree with Councilman Randolph.
Okay, so the way I understand it, the very dumbed down version of it is that part of the reason we were considering moving to an ad hoc committee was to keep the band together, right? So, and that certainly is important for, I think, for a complex issue that they're tackling, which is that Maitland transportation study. But I don't know, is it the kind of thing that, Bill, you're envisioning is it so important, I guess my question is it so important that we have it stacked with local professionals who have great knowledge about it, or is it more of a layman's board who might need to bring, or is it a mix? So,
I mean, listen, we're blessed to have that now, but it hasn't always been that, you know? So, Mr. Mayor, I would just, I know this is a discussion piece, but I know the chairman of the TAB is here, is interested in addressing us.
well, I would certainly invite him up for a public comment period. The former mayor and current chair.
Last 30 minutes?
You're already eating into your 3. Hurry up.
One thing you'll never tell me is hurry up. Dale McDonald, 108 Angelo Court, and that the 3 minutes starts when I tell you. But no, you all know me, other than Steve, and I know way too much to be quiet, and you guys know that. So I've got opinions, and I'm a long-term thinker in terms of the city of Maitland, and we can't continue because, as Bill pointed out, and Vance agreed, and everybody's agreed, Maitland, people drive through Maitland. They don't come to Maitland. And that's impossible to disagree with. That's why we have a railroad track and an interstate and a Maitland Boulevard, you know, and that we're in a fabulous location. Everybody wants to be here. And so what we want to try to be able to do is to be able to be the best place to visit that you can. And to leave. So, to do that efficiently and safely, this is the key. I mean, we're begging the question, as Bill pointed out to me today, that, you know, Packwood and Maitland Boulevard, or Maitland Avenue, is risky. And we're not even going to talk about Maitland Avenue and Horatio, because God forbid. All right? I mean, nobody actually would have ever designed that, but it happened. And so the combination of things that we have to deal with, and because we're used to it. It doesn't mean it's right, or ever will be right. So let's have, you know, the opportunity, I mean, to have both professionals, traffic professionals, and John Q. Maitlander living in Domrick. They might have great ideas. I'm still a Daytona guy. So, you know, and very few of you remember, John will, you know, and Bill will, who Tomek was. You know, our Mike from forever. So, and a long-term thinker, and let's make sure that we've done the best we can with what we have. And I'm not sure that we're doing that yet. And John will remember, and Bill will certainly remember. I mean, we had, you know, our committees and our boards were so involved that we filled up, you know, Sweetwater Country Club. And people were so dressed up, you know, and now it's, you know, it's kind of a barbecue moment under a tent. All right, so it's a different world, and I understand that. But I've been doing this for 33 years, and John and Bill have been doing it, you know, basically the same period of time. And that, so understanding that we owe the kids that aren't born yet better than we're giving them today. Thinking ahead. Because we've got challenges. We've been blessed with 20-odd fabulous lakes and great schools, and, you know, the inspired bit of thinking that went involved with setting out the trust fund for, you know, John, you remember how good that was. And that, so, it wouldn't happen without you and Sharon. And that, so, yeah, I couldn't even spell trust fund. So, that the idea was, it was a better use of the money. A better use, now let's use the money we have And I know that culturally we are, I'll try to be as kind as I can. You know, culturally we're not an extravagant city, how about that? And we can do better. We owe it better. We owe what's to people behind us. We owe better. Again, I can do this all day. You know I can. So, any other thoughts? Yes, I would like to see TAB be a forever board because it's too important. And to promote those roles, you know, which is a city problem. The city doesn't promote what our boards are expected to do and expected to be, and ideas. Let's do a better job of selling our boards, Mark. You can do that. And that, be a part of the city. And this is a way to be a part of the city. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thank you, Dale. One week, Dale, report. We got that. Okay, so do we have any encouragement for Mark on the TAB? So currently we have, well, what the issue for us is going to be whether we want to sunset it or not. What is the current status of the board? Is it ad hoc right now?
The TAB?
Yeah.
No, it's still a standing board.
Okay, so we haven't ad hoc anyone yet.
No, you've just created a separate ad hoc board that just happens to be the same members as the former TAB.
And they're ad hoc on this single project.
Yes.
All right. And so the question would be, do those people, and I understand that at least two of them don't want to be permanent on the TAB. I can foresee a situation where there is a different makeup of the TAB and we have this ad hoc board moving ahead, doing the what is it, MATS 2 or whatever we're calling it. And that's, I guess, what's for us to decide whether or not we want to continue doing that. And the appointments are when?
We're doing them in January.
Okay.
And all the boards are 2 3-year terms.
Okay. So the do nothing approach is we would end up appointing members of the TAB. And we would continue as we are. We'd have this ad hoc committee. We'd have all our bases covered. The question is, do we want to well, I guess what we'd end up having is 2 ad hoc committees dealing with transportation issues.
One specifically though for one
Right.
specific issue.
And we wouldn't necessarily even appoint an ad hoc TAB at this point because there would be no project and there would be no date certain we want them to serve. Is that correct?
No, if you keep the TAB as it's constituted, they would still follow their constitution and bylaws, and we would still coordinate them just as we do right now to set meetings. So.
But if we were to make the TAB generally an ad hoc committee, we would just wait until there was a reason to have
The
it.
next issue, the next issue comes up. Yes.
So, okay, so that would be correct.
So theoretically, we could have an ad hoc issue come up monthly or twice a year or, you know,
Not at all.
12 times a year, or not at all.
So I think what I like is what John was saying is, you know, one of the things he said was the do nothing approach. Let the ad hoc committee do what the ad hoc committee's doing with this. Keep TAB. Those people don't want to be on. It's just like any other board. They come off. It doesn't have to be the superstar board. In fact, maybe it's a good training space for a lot of people to come in and really learn. So when they come, if they're coming up here, you know, later on, they have that experience and knowledge. You know, so I think it's where we're saying to mix it up. I kind of like that idea. You know, the average Joe and the professionals. And we don't know, it could be 5 more professionals. Or it could be 3 professionals and 2 average people.
But if there are no issues, how are you gonna train these people? I mean, how does that?
Well, that's the
happen?
thing with the ad hoc, it has to be an issue.
Yeah, but if you're gonna train somebody, there has to be an issue. And if there are no issues.
Well, there's
What
always
do we do
things,
if it's an ad hoc committee?
The-
That's my question.
the thing is that there's always something that can be done. I mean, back to Bill's point, is this intersection here, what's the best way, you know? Maybe have a little think tank of 5 people other than just a company who went out there, did a study and said, this is the best thing to do.
Since the intersection of pathways coming up.
I'm just using that as an example.
That is being addressed by the ad hoc committee, just so.
Right, but I'm just using it as an example.
Yes.
But there's other things in all the neighborhoods on the west side we just went to. I mean, there's, the downtown's always gonna be changing. Maybe we're just putting in a new road. There's opportunity maybe in the future to put one going south. I mean, there's going to be issues all the time.
Can I ask a question about the name of the current ad hoc committee? Does it have, is it the MAX, is that what you're using as the?
No, it's the ad hoc committee for the downtown Maitland mobility study.
Downtown Maitland mobility study. Okay, thank you.
Either have to make a name that has an acronym, or means something, or you gotta make it extremely long.
Basically, you're all stars.
Well, one of the things that I believe these committees and boards over the years have been is the voice of the city and the general public. They can be your adversaries out there talking to their neighbors, you know, because I hear a lot of rumors about things, and I'm like, well, that's not the way it's going. You know, rumors, like everything, start, and, you know, they just perpetuate themselves amongst neighbors. And it's the old, you know, when we were in elementary school, you sat in a circle and you whispered something, and by the time you got to the end, you know, it's like not even close to what it started as. And it's never changed in the public. So, I mean, I can remember when they closed Hillman down to put in the crosswalk. And I was TAB chair at that time. I couldn't cut my yard. The neighbors were coming down, you know, the street wasn't stopping. You know, oh, this is the reason for that. I'm like, not really, but okay, if that's what you believe.
I remember the Ford dealership wanted to shut down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they wanted to close down their road. That was the TAB. So there are issues, there are things that are always going to be prevalent.
Excuse me, John, who could actually call an ad hoc meeting?
The president, I assume, or other chairman of the board.
I know a guy.
So, I'm interested to hear what, I think I've heard from us, Scott, and you always say the best for last, so Scott, love to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, I am sensitive, you know, to this problem of citizen involvement. I think Lori Wurtzel mentioned it on her way, on her last talk, I think. Do you recall this? That she said this is one of the things she hadn't really resolved. And I hear others, you know, also concerned that these boards are ways for citizens to get involved, to learn, to be active, and to be conduits and liaisons to their communities. I don't want a situation where, like the sustainability board, where you know, that one was out of line with, it didn't have a purpose that was helpful. It was creating extra work, and I think if we felt that this board could still you know, address, it is the issue of campaigns. I mean, it's a major issue that we're going to always hear about, and if there's a way to sort of use it productively, I don't think it's a problem to keep.
Listen, when you're talking about campaigns, it just reminded me, when I was out campaigning and you were campaigning,
Yeah,
you knocked on the door. What was the one issue everybody had?
well, a lot of people had transportation issues, right? And
Yeah,
some were
that's the
very-
number one.
They were specific to, things that have nothing to do with, what, we think of maybe these.
It's in my neighborhood, or
Yeah,
the stop
issues
signs.
down by, Mayo,
Pumps.
or, I mean, they have answers, and there, some of it was just communication issues, and, where I felt like I was kind of running back and forth trying to gather information, but I never felt like I really mastered the problem at all. Like, I just felt like I'm hearing something, it's a problem, it seems to be a lingering problem, but the people don't know what's happening on it, or maybe it's a problem that can't really be fixed. It just sometimes comes up, and which seems to be a Maitland thing. Some of the things are very quirky, but it seems like the Transportation Advisory Board could deal with those kinds of ongoing concerns that do become rumor mills, or just become sources of citizen frustration. Right, that's the issue. This is why I'm unhappy with the city. It's over this thing, and this thing's been around for a long time, and nothing's being done. And they can always call. So I understand that and maybe they do occasionally, but sometimes they just give up, and they just sort of say, well, they don't care. And I know that they do, and I will ask, but that seems inefficient for me, especially as a candidate, before I've even fully grasped the nature of the issue. Now I'm on the board, and it seems like, that would be a good thing to sort of present to the Transportation Advisory Board. You could identify 4 or 5 problem issues that seem to come up all the time, that maybe have been addressed in some form or fashion, but there's not a lot more we can do because of who controls the road, right? I mean, I kind of feel like there's still a role to be played by this board, especially if we're all committed to using it.
And you know what? Things keep popping up in my head about how valuable boards are, because I started thinking about when I was on Lakes Board, when Maitland Concourse North first came in, and our Lakes Board looked at the blueprints for what they were doing with the lake. It was going to dam up part of the lake and put a road on top. And the Lakes Board, we discussed that, and that's when we addressed it with, the council, and we came to council and said, we don't think this is a good idea. We were totally against it. But if it wasn't for the Lakes Board, there's a good possibility right now that, Lake Charity could be dammed up with a nice little road on top of the dam. Sure. So these are the things that the boards do. So it doesn't always have to have a problem. You're supposed to be there to really make sure that everything is going through, is being done correctly. You're the voice and the representatives of the city, just like we are, but just in a different capacity. They still work for the citizens. They just don't have a vote or the strength that we have.
Or maybe more. Now that social media plays.
Okay.
So perhaps, since it's a discussion tonight, I'll go ahead and send out we'll take care of sustainability and go on a different track there. But I'll send out the bylaws and constitutions for all of our advisory boards. You really don't need to see what's going on with the police and fire pension fund or the CRA advisory boards. They meet for very specific statutory reasons, and there'll probably no need for the crap to meet by the time that the CRA runs out. So the key boards, send those out to you so you can review them, and then just bring them back for discussion. We'll move forward with TAB. Doesn't sound like there's any appetite to sunset the TAB. Am I reading that correctly?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so we'll move forward with that, and then we can regroup on the other boards, and we can bring some more information for discussion. We had a very healthy discussion tonight, and I think we sort of understand where roles are and responsibilities are, and we can refine those as we dig into the bylaws and constitution, which I'm sure you guys will read those all the time, but it'll make me feel better to send it back out to you.
Okay. All right, that sounds like a good landing point for that.
Okay.
TAP lives for another day. Okay, that takes care of our substantive business for the evening. Sounds like Mr. McDonald is victorious. Do we have any reports from the city attorney?
A brief one, and I sent the same thing that I sent to you and Mark to the other council members this evening. Just an update on how wonderful our Second Amendment is in this country. A South Florida trial judge determined that citizens who can purchase guns that are under the age of 21 cannot be prohibited from having them concealed. So if you're old enough to buy a gun, you're also old enough to conceal it without a permit. And according to this judge, to do anything less than that would violate the Constitution. It's a trial judge's decision, so it does not have any binding nature yet. Obviously, it will be appealed, and then it will become binding. That's where we are.
Okay. Thank you. Uplifting message. To City Manager.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Me?
That's funny. I don't understand that one. It makes no sense to me.
Never sure why my phone listens to.
Yeah, and on sort of the legislative front, some bills are starting to come out regarding tax reform. None of them are especially appealing, as you would expect. All are limiting, but there seems to be some feeling in Tallahassee, from what we're hearing from the league, that the rivalry between the governor and the Speaker of the House still exists. So this might be a strategy to put as much on the ballot to confuse the issue, to have nothing actually be implementable. So, but nothing in the proposed legislation ranges from everything from taking away our ad valorem taxing authority to increasing the homestead exemptions for everyone or for classes, or to phase it out over time, phase out our authority over time, to protect it just for school boards, so it is all over the board right now, but they are still focusing on getting an issue or several issues on the ballot for next November. So more to come on that. We'll be keeping up on it, and I will be keeping you informed as that changes and moves forward. The downside of that is there's going to be a lot of talk in Tallahassee that will never come to fruition, but at least you'll know what's going to go on. And I can tell you right now, it's nothing good for local government. On an upside, we have Get Down Downtown in Penn Lane on November 7th. We have a community cleanup at Lake Lily on November 15th. Our Movie in the Park this month on November 15th is going to be Lilo and Stitch right here in Independence Lane. And we have our tree lighting and Season of Light celebration December 6th at Lake Lily. So, busy month.
Okay. Yeah, and how was the Halloween?
It was very popular, incredibly popular. Yes, there was thousands of people here for that. So, and it was a beautiful night too. Weather dictates so much what happened. So, but it was incredibly popular and a very big success.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Okay. City Clerk?
Just a reminder that we're down to our last two meetings of the year. First one in November, first one in December.
Okay. Right, and when is the qualifying finished for city election?
Petition submittal is the 17th through the 21st of November. It's correct here. Yes, petition submittal is the 17th through the 21st of November, and qualifying is December 1st through 4th.
When was qualifying?
December 1st through 4th.
All right. Anybody Any on council have any reports? Anybody?
I did. My time is dwindling down, sadly, and I did my very last boat parade at Lake Sedalia Elementary School, and it's been the same group that I've been judging with for the last 3 or 4 years, and it was just fantastic. I mean, and this year the kids didn't cry as much. Usually when they didn't cry, there were some great costumes. One little ninja guy ran, jumped on the stage and slid all down the stage and got up and went, "What?" It's like, you're a winner. So it was a great time. Everybody had a fantastic time. All the kids were very supportive of one another. It's a very, very festive, happy family event, and I'm very honored and appreciate all what I've been able to do with Lake Sedalia in the past. So yes.
Awesome. Great. Yes.
I just want to add or clarify something about the upcoming election, because I saw everybody write down the dates. If you are speaking to someone or you have someone that wants to become a candidate, they can come see me now. I mean, the time's now to get the
They
things.
could have come 2 months ago.
Right, and everything's updated now on the website also if there's any questions, but they don't have to wait for those particular periods to get things started, so.
Okay. Great. Scott?
Well, I had a question first. The Lake Lily cleanup, will they allow kayaks on the lake? Oh.
I brought my kayak
I've
before.
never seen that. I just want to see that. I want to be on one as well, but I think that's very cool.
Make sure you have a little grabber because
yeah.
they're down in the water.
How about around the edges? Can people go in with waders and get right into the water there? Or no?
No, but I'll tell you where the most, right there along 1792 between the dock and that little area, that's where you find most of it.
Yeah, the boardwalk and the road.
Yeah.
I just want to say I really appreciated the presentation from Scott. Is it Howard? Howard. And to hear from the public schools. And I've been following Stephanie Manos's social media posts on the charter schools and the implications. She's doing a great job. She explains it so clearly. I think she did an editorial as well, and it's just so impressive because that's what it takes. You really have to have someone who can break it down, and she does it in just such a clear, compelling way. You can see what's happening, why it's so disturbing. What they put out there, what they're allowing. I think that was it. I think that's all. I appreciate us knowing what they're doing and having kind of a common purpose, and that was really helpful tonight. Thank you.
Just everybody have a safe Halloween Friday night.
All right.
It seems to be the year of the scout.
If anybody wants to get in a kilt, they can join me Saturday night at the St. Andrews dinner at the Women's Club in Winter Park.
Okay. All right.
David, you up for it?
I'm going. All right. We'll stand adjourned.